Hi everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits. Right now I'm taking 100 grams of dry Stroll fingering weight yarn and submerging it in some warm water that has a lot of citric acid in it already. I'm not really pre-soaking it very much, but this is yarn that I used water that I used with some KoolAid to speckle some other yarn. And so I wanted to take advantage of this and do this with one hank at a time this time. So that way maybe we can see a little easier way of getting more coverage. Okay. The thing with dyeing yarn with KoolAid, I'm going to turn on the heat just pretty low. We're on my gas stove top right now. The thing with dyeing yarn with KoolAid is that even without the citric acid that is in the water, currently the colors strike extremely quickly. So we do not see a lot of color penetration into strands of yarn that are maybe a little lower in the surface. But I am curious today to see what kind of coverage we can get if we sort of loosen up this yarn. This is a part 2, I guess, of the Dyepath weekly episode that I did recently. This hasn't heated up a lot. There's just a tiny bit of steam coming off. But I'm now going to use just some straight KoolAid powder on this yarn, and I'm going to sort of speckle it on. All right, this is the last of my blue raspberry lemonade. And so the difference now is you can see that the colors are spreading out more. I did not add water back to this, but in this amount of water, we previously had three hanks of yarn, and now we only have one. So what I'm anticipating is that we're not going to see as many speckles because there's some areas where the water, where the dye is hitting the water before it's hitting the yarn, and therefore it is spreading out a bit more. But I think that still can look really cool. I'm now starting to think that maybe I should have reduced the amount of water before I started this one. Now with the purple, there you can see the speckles a little bit better. Some of them are still starting to dissolve a little bit more before they are hitting the yarn. But I'm still seeing very discreet purpley specks, which is very, very exciting to me. I'm kind of digging the fact that the blues are spreading out a little more. But I'm just sort of sprinkling and rubbing this in between my fingers to get it on the yarn. The KoolAid speckles are pretty granular. Let's see if... Yeah. The KoolAid speckles are pretty granular, which is what helps it sort of stick to the yarn so quickly. Okay, and finally, and the last one, the pink lemonade that I used, didn't really sing very much, and I think that that's because it's so much paler than the cherries that I had used. But I'm now sort of going to go over this with some of this pink lemonade. And it might be hard for you to see, but we definitely are getting some speckling here. There. And there is, as I said, there's a lot of citric acid in here, but not more. I did not use more than 5 whole packets of KoolAid for this project. But, let me see, here's a spoon. Our water is already super clear. I mean, these are, the color is striking and the yarn is soaking up this dye almost as soon as it hits the yarn. Let's zoom in a little bit so you can see some of these very discreet speckles. Now I am going to flip the yarn over, but this was able to be so spread out that I know we already have really, really good coverage. The place where the coverage is not necessarily as good is sort of near the ends of the yarn, where they're tied up a bit. But this way I can add a bit more. And unfortunately, I used up my blue already, but maybe there's a tiny bit that I could shake out there. I don't mind there being some white left behind, but sort of enjoying playing with these colors. Uh-oh. My finger was a little wet, and so I'm starting to get some paste on there. Okay, the grape is definitely my favorite. I think that these pink speckles are really lovely, but the purple, this grape, just gives the whole thing a really nice pop. There, I'm pretty satisfied. I don't think we even used a whole packet of KoolAid. Now, some of the spots, you know, we still need to give the yarn a little bit of time for the colors to set. And overall, the effect on this yarn is very much a pastel. But it looks like, even with the pink lemonade, you can see very discrete, tiny specks of color. Because this powder can strike the yarn before it dissolves, and therefore the colors don't spread out very much. I'm gonna just turn off the heat entirely. There's two burners here and here, so the heat is not even around the yarn, but the water was sort of warm to start off with. And now I'm going to just let this sit for 5 minutes. The yarn is warm, but not unreasonably so. We have some white patches, but I think we've got something glorious and speckled. And just here is our yarn, and now we just need to let it cool completely so we can wash it. Let's wash our pretty pastel speckled yarn. This time we can really sort of see in some areas some of the pale pink specks. The pink and the blue in general spread out a lot more, but we definitely have the discrete grape speckles, so I am really excited. It was easier to get probably should have used a little less water while I was dyeing, but it was easier to get good coverage all over the yarn because I was able to spread out the yarn more. I'm just using some clear dish soap to help rinse out all of the additional stuff that is in with the KoolAid, you know, the flavor and whatnot. But you know, the color appears to be safely in the yarn. Maybe there's a hint of blue coming out, but doesn't seem to be diminishing what I see in the yarn. So anyway, I'm going to wash this until the water runs clear, and then I am going to put the yarn through my salad spinner to remove excess water and hang it up to dry. In my last video, I was really concerned about color balance. And I'm less concerned this time because I don't see a vast difference between some sections and others. Yes, there could be more speckling on one end than the other, but I know that there will be some of the beautiful speckling throughout the entire skein of yarn. The speckles we got from the KoolAid powder are sharp and super discreet. even in some of the paler colors. The blues spread out a little more, but you can still see the speckling. I think that I need to try adding more KoolAid powder to the pan at one time. If I don't try to do such a light coverage for these teeny specks and go for somewhat bigger speckles, there might be more color penetration versus the super, super shallow color penetration we saw here. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and I hope that you enjoyed this little bonus video. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the ChemKnits Tutorials YouTube channel. And if you would like to support ChemKnits on a more personal level, check out the ChemKnits Patreon. There is a link in the video description. Thank you so much for watching.